What if you suddenly got the ability to tell when the people around you were gonna die?
Wonder with us.
I'm Connor.
I'm Bethany.
This is Wander with Us. That's not how we usually do that.
Nope.
It's fine.
It's only been a little while.
What episode is this?
This is episode 19.
Only took us 4 years to get here.
It's the Purple Testament. It originally aired February 12th, 1960.
Directed by Richard Lee. I'm gonna go with Bear because I don't know. It seems as likely as Barr. 124 total credits to his name. He lived to 101, which is unfortunate for him. 1913 to 2015. Last film he directed was Real Talent in 2007, which is just so late in his life. He had 21 episodes of Cheyenne from 1955 to 1962, 13 episodes of Broken Arrow from 56 to 58, 11 episodes of Maverick Hold Up. He had 13 episodes of Broken Arrow in 2 years.
That's a lot of episodes.
TV ain't made like that no more. 11 episodes of Maverick from 57 to 59. 121 episodes, Dear God, of Green Acres from 65 to 71. And 7 episodes of this here Twilight Zone from 1960 to 1964.
Also, isn't Real Talent like a fishing show?
Well, here in my notes it says film, but I don't know what a real talent is. It's spelled R-E-E-L, so
Which would
probably
connote something
perhaps
about
a fishing movie. You know what? It's the beautiful thing. We have the interwebs right here at our fingertips. I can find out exactly what real talent is. Ooh, it's so there's a
2007.
talent studio in Oklahoma. That's probably not it, huh?
What does IMDb say?
Collection of short films reveals the emerging genius of Hollywood legends: George Lucas, Robert Zemeckis, Sean Levy, Stephen Sommers, John
Yeah.
Charles, James Foley.
It's the
Kevin
other kind of
Reynolds,
real,
Richard.
like movie reel.
Yeah, movie reel,
That
not
makes sense.
fishing reel.
Got it.
Yeah, it looks like it's a collection of short films about some of the geniuses of Hollywood.
Cool.
Runtime is 3 hours and 8 minutes. TLDR, no thanks. Who wrote it?
Mm-hmm.
The episode, not Real Talent.
That's good, 'cause I don't know that answer. Rod Serling wrote this episode.
Oh, Brain Daddy.
Yeah.
Edited by Bill Mosher. He's back again. Photography by Clemens, because he's never going to leave us. I trust him.
The art director here was George W. Davis and William Ferrari, not of the car fame.
Prove it.
I mean, I Googled it. Oh. Music
Prove
was
enough.
by Lud Gluskin.
Hell of a name.
It's a good one. And the cast.
Oh, yes, the cast. Let's get into the cast. We got to get through this. It's a fucking...
There's a lot. There's
I
a
mean,
lot of people involved.
There's a lot of people. We're not covering them all, but we're covering the big ones.
So Dick York played the role of Captain Phil Riker. He was born September 4th, 1928 in Indiana. He is best known for the film Inherit the Wind in 1960.
Ah, yes, one of my favorites.
Yeah?
Sure.
I'll wait for a recap later. TV series Bewitched from 1964 to 1969. And for
he was
his
Darren.
role as Darren Stevens. Yeah, in the TV series Bewitched.
Sorry to cut you off. I didn't realize he was Darren.
I haven't
I
seen that one.
recognize him now that I know it's him, but...
I don't know that one, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah, it's fine. He had a genie It definitely wasn't his sex slave. Nope. That's I Dream of Jeannie, not Bewitched. Whew.
Yeah?
I'm sleepy. Don't judge me. Moving on.
Yep. So a chronic back injury caused him to leave the show and subsequently Hollywood altogether in 1969. He went on to found Acting for Life very shortly after he left Hollywood, so I guess retirement didn't agree with him. It was a private run fundraising effort for the homeless, which he operated out of his own home until his death in February of 1992. And he had a total of 58 acting credits to his name.
Then we have William Reynolds, played the role of Lieutenant Fitzgerald, born December 9, 1931 in L.A., which is fairly odd for the cast of The Twilight Zone. They weren't typically born in L.A., they typically wound up there. Considered Ivy League material, didn't start acting until after he got married to Molly Sinclair, also an actor, in 1951. Was primarily in B-rolls and under-budget films. He was in the series FBI in 1965 for 6 seasons. When that show wrapped up, he did become one of our Hollywood ghosts until he passed away in August of 22. Had a total of 42 acting credits to his name.
Wow.
Not a lot of recognizable material in his catalog, for me personally.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's not saying much for myself, but yeah, I didn't recognize too many of them.
That's okay. I told you that Bewitched was about a genie sex slave. What the fuck do I know?
And then we have William Phipps. I think that's how you say that. He played the role of Sergeant, which is very, poignant and
All the information you need to know
super
about his
helpful.
character
Yeah.
right there.
Yep. He was born February 4th, 1922 in Indiana. He died June 1st in 2018 in Santa Monica. And despite having a short role in this episode of The Twilight Zone, William Phipps had an outstanding 232 acting credits in his Hollywood career.
Putting our last two to shame together.
Sure. Most notably was the War of the Worlds in 1955. He also was the voice actor for Prince Charming in Disney's 1950 debut of Cinderella. And so many others. It would quite frankly take half this episode to list them all. He also became a mainstay of the 1950s science fiction genre as a whole. And much like we commented on the previous one, it all began when he was a recent college grad and hitchhiked his way to Hollywood. So they usually wind up in Hollywood at some point.
Very few of them were born there, although I guess that's the Hollywood dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
Get out of where you are, get to Hollywood, become a famous actor,
And
get all them panties.
some things never change.
Next, we have Barney Phillips. He played Captain E.L. Gunther. Phillips was an American actor of German descent, born 1913 in St. Louis, Missouri. It was a funny joke if you were there for it. Don't worry about it. Son of a leather industry salesman and naturalized American-German immigrant. He moved to L.A. in 1935 with the hopes of working in the film industry. His debut was a Western called Black Aces in 1937, which was his last acting credit for a while he continued doing theater. In 1941, he enlisted in the Army, served in World War II, which is apropos for this episode, after which he returned to acting mostly as an extra. He died in 1982 due to cancer at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. I'm going to pretend I got that right and move on. A few years following his death, he received his final film credit as character Dr. Bat in the psychological drama Beyond Reason. It had been produced in 1977, but wasn't released until 1985. The film was mainly notable as a rare directing credit for the actor Telly Savalas, 1922 to 1994.
Not sure why I included that. Sorry.
I'm sure it's relevant. It was probably something in the research for... Now, for clarity's sake, it's been a minute since our last recording. Anybody who has been listening, thanks for sticking around. I don't know why you did. Will have noticed that it's been a minute. The fact of the matter is, we did these notes the day we recorded episode 18.
Yeah, so it's been
Approximately 12 minutes. And one pandemic. And one house. And 2 careers.
It's been a bit. Yeah.
So I apologize if I stumble over my notes. It'll happen. We'll get back on track.
Yeah. Bear with us if you still are.
What's IMDb got to say about this episode?
IMDb says a U.S. Army lieutenant serving in the Philippines during World War II develops a harrowing ability to see in the faces of the men of his platoon, the men who will be next to die.
Now, that alone catches my attention.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've seen the episode, so it's not shocking. But it's a fairly... I think it's a fairly catchy write-up. However, I, Connor, am a product of the public American education system.
Sure.
So during an episode in which the U.S. Army lieutenant is serving in the Philippines during World War II, there are regular references to the Japanese they are fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm no gynecologist. I don't know much about World War II. I was not, however, aware of the Japanese being in the Philippines.
I did not know that either.
And I was certain that I had got Mr. Serling. I caught him off. I caught him in a mistake that nobody else had mentioned. And it turns out I'm an idiot. Because after doing some research, I found a lot of interesting information. Let me just dig through my paper here as noisily as possible. The Philippine Campaign, the Battle of the Philippines, and the Liberation of the Philippines were 3 separate campaigns during World War II in which the American military, Australian military, Mexican military, and Filipino military worked together to remove the Japanese forces that were occupying the Philippines during World War II. The Japanese forces were given the order to surrender in August of 1945 after the atomic bombs were dropped on Japan. Now, there's no mention in the episode what Philippine island this episode takes place on, so I don't have specifics, but there was a lot of interesting information to be had regarding this that I didn't know going in. I mean, for starters, I didn't know that Japanese forces had occupied any of the Philippines during World War II. I didn't know that there were multiple campaigns to remove the Japanese forces from the Philippines. So after the order to surrender was given, August 15th of 1945, there were a lot of holdouts of Japanese forces, the last of which didn't surrender until 1974. A lot of the holdouts were apparently out of communication and simply didn't believe that the Japanese had surrendered. It took Japanese officials, and in some cases members of the imperial family, visiting these holdouts in person to convince them that the emperor had given the order to surrender. One of the things I did want to mention here, as it is apropos to my next point, is along with not knowing that the Japanese forces had occupied the Philippines, or that America, Mexico, Australia, and the Philippines had joined forces to get the Japanese forces out of the Philippines, I had also never seen an updated casualty count for any of this, obviously, because I didn't know it existed. So I'd like to go over that, and I'm going to apologize ahead of time if this is a bummer, but I think it's an important point. So in total, U.S. Army and Air Force, the estimate count is 62,523 dead, which doesn't take into account injured or any of that, obviously. And this is forces in the Philippines during this attempt to end the Japanese occupation. The Japanese casualty count is sitting at 373,034, which doesn't include the bombs dropped on Hiroshima or Nagasaki. Those are estimated to have respectively got 340,000 and 355,000, putting it at a total between the bombs dropped on the mainlands of Japan and three particular attempts to remove the Japanese forces from the Philippines at a total of 720,000 casualties,
Wow.
not including the injured. Just between the Philippines and the bombs that were dropped, Japanese casualties in total during World War II are estimated at 2.3 million, which at the time was 25.5% of their total population.
Wow. That is quite a number.
25%. A quarter of their entire population. Which leads to my next point. I mean, that could lead to a lot of points, but I'm going to avoid the temptation to get political here. And I'm gonna jump the fence on my favorite part of the episode.
Okay.
Because my favorite part of the episode came super early in the episode.
Okay.
And knowing what I know now just made it better for me. So, first of all, close second on favorite is the Power Rangers-esque explosions that the episode opens with.
Yeah.
Just sparks and smoke,
Yep.
because that's...
Sparks and smoke and sound.
And sound. So, Brain Daddy opens up the episode with, quote, Infantry Platoon, United States Army, Philippine Islands, 1945. These are the faces of the young men who fight. As if some omniscient painter had mixed a tube of oils that were at one time earth brown, dust gray, blood red, beard black, and fear yellow and white, and these men were the models. For this is the province of combat, and these are the faces of war.
Brilliant writing.
Very well written, and it is read over the top of a ridiculously long shot of all of these young men getting out of the back of a truck that has just gotten to their base here in the Philippines. And it's a really, really well done shot. And when you couple that with actual information about the war that was going on and the battles that were going on, it hit me a little bit harder after reading those numbers and realizing what people were actually going into. The only bummer of it is that they end it with a freeze frame of, like, the world's worst Pepsi model. And it's blurry.
Yeah.
Like, they froze the moving film at a point where it was blurry and just sit on this guy's face for what was probably 5 seconds and feels like half an hour.
Sure.
Where nothing occurs, but the music gets slightly more intense with no particular reason to do so. That was a tirade. This is not a war podcast or a World War II podcast or a look how many people died podcast. This is a Twilight Zone podcast. Do you feel like IMDb's breakdown of this episode is accurate? Because that's where that started.
I feel like it was fairly succinct. I mean, it is what it is. It is what happened. As far as the show goes.
Does what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I also appreciate the research that you did. Thank you for that long bit of information.
You're welcome. For our viewers watching on all platforms, including, I assume, the world's greatest football stadium, she walked out of the room 8 seconds in. She has no idea what I was talking about, and that's okay. IMDb has some fun facts.
Yeah. Also, I read the notes. It's fine. I know what's going on.
You do know what's going on, yes. So if you want to go over the fun facts, that's fine. I've got some points on them, so I will probably interrupt you because that's what I do.
Do you want to
I am going to make a suggestion for future episodes. And I think this is an okay platform for that. I don't think we should point out errors.
Okay.
They're interesting bits of information, and they're readily available online in reality. But frankly, I think we've got these, so we can go over this stuff. But in the future, I think we should leave those for people to find.
Maybe just the third one.
I mean, we can go over all three of them. That's fine. I don't have an issue with that. And frankly, I don't know how accurate the third one is. I don't know how accurate any of them are. I haven't read Richard III.
I have, but not enough to know that. But, I mean...
The first error is one of pronunciation.
Yeah.
They mention a drink early on in the episode.
Who somebody in the comment section had commented that the actor actually pronounced the name of the drink, incorrectly.
Actually, it only appeared on season 2 on the director's cut in one particular cooler on set. Yeah, and it may or may not have been pronounced correctly or incorrectly. I don't fucking know. I'm not going to do it any better than he did. And frankly, it was an American soldier in the Philippines talking about this drink. I assume he would have in real life got it wrong as well.
Sure.
So, I don't know. Pronunciation being what it is, I couldn't do it any better. It was apparently mispronounced. But I would argue that is true to form. Because, I mean, you can put almost any dish in any other dialect or language in front of me and I'm gonna fuck it up.
Yeah. So, some fun facts, not necessarily according to IMDb on this. I think, anyway, in my opinion, how much of the visual effects were done, like, manually, because one of the things that I particularly enjoy about this era of TV show and productions of this type is the fact that so much of it was done, like, okay, the weird light that shines on the faces of the platoon members was literally probably a guy holding a mirror and letting light reflect off of that, and that light shining on their faces.
So we should clarify, in case they haven't watched, is it Lieutenant?
Yeah.
Lieutenant who wakes up with this miraculous ability to see who's going to die next in his platoon. We as the viewer get to see this information skewed by when the lieutenant looks at somebody, their face lights up from below. Like they get semi-horror movie underlit to the point that you can see some of them squinting. It's delightful. And whether that was practical or post, I don't know. It looks like somebody was just reflecting light on set up into their face.
Yeah.
Which does bring up an interesting point, because we also see the mirror scene towards the end, which was almost certainly done in post.
Sure, because of the way the mirror drops and fractures.
Right, we've got 4 pieces of mirror reflecting the exact same image from 3 slightly different angles, but they're definitely all reflecting the same piece of shot film. And I wasn't able to find a lot of information on how that would have been done.
Yeah.
So there were the times equivalent of the green screen. We did have that, although it wasn't anything near what we know today as far as how that is done. There's a lot of my rudimentary understanding being a lot of tape overlay and a lot of manual tape manipulation to make things
really
like that occur. But
in artwork, like in an art form.
Certainly a different art form than today's. I wouldn't want to take anything away from modern day CG artists.
No, but like,
certainly a different form.
In a DIY sense, if you're physically
there's
cutting
a
and pasting
very
things
Star
together.
Wars, we don't have a budget to make this happen, so let's grab a razor blade and some cigarettes and see what we can do.
Sure.
And I like that. I like
Also,
that.
every actor, like, there are certain parts where you can definitely tell that they're on a set. Like,
Yeah.
things wiggle that really shouldn't be wiggling, even if you want to say it's the wind
All the
moving the
wide
plants.
shots, all of the really wide shots,
Yeah.
kind of take you out of take you out of the moment.
But every actor is perpetually damp
Ugh,
or,
they're just
or
so
sweating,
gross.
which, I mean, they sold it because if they're in a tropical climate out in the jungle, which is where most of this set is, like, that's how it's
Alleged.
designed, they nailed that because there's not a single dry face in this
No,
entire episode.
they're all so sweaty and dirty.
Even in, like, the obviously indoor hospital scenes, everybody is sweaty.
Yeah,
So,
like short of like the nurses.
right.
There's like two nurses that walk by that don't have sweat and dirt on them, but do have blood
Sure.
or what looks like blood. You know, hard to say in black and white, but
Well, and they didn't really zoom in on their faces too much to tell either.
no, they were just passerbys for sure. But even they didn't get out clean.
I appreciate the commitment of the actors on the set.
I appreciate that whoever was in charge of makeup probably didn't give them a choice.
No, we're gonna spray you with water bottles in like 3-minute intervals. Ready, go.
Listen here, Debbie. I don't care that you just did your hair. We're gonna spritz your face with mud. Get over here. All right, let's go to the financial department. Is that a thing we can say?
I don't think that's a thing we can say.
Does they
What
don't-
did we say before? We had a thing.
did we have a thing
I think so.
for the ad read?
We're gonna go to an ad break.
You
Yeah,
can hear
yeah.
an ad we recorded 1,000 years ago.
Enjoy.
So, what do you think of this episode?
I liked this episode because, you know, if our listeners will recall, the whole
They probably won't.
the whole premise of this is that Connor has seen all of these episodes many times. And when we first started this, I hadn't seen any of them, so we were watching as we go. And we're still kind of doing that. I did pause a little bit. So in picking up more details on a second and then third watch through of this, I really like this episode. I think that context around, you know, what they were aiming for helps add a little more depth to the end result here. I liked this episode.
I also liked this episode. Certainly having the context of the information that they were going off of, and this is obviously not a historically accurate story. They're not going for historical accuracy, which is great because they didn't get it. But it's the fact that they are in war is not the, at least to me, is not the main story being told. It's the world in which the story takes place. The story is obviously following Lieutenant
Fitzgerald.
Thank you. And his
Struggle.
struggle to terms with this new power
An ability that he clearly didn't ask for.
and can't utilize
Right.
functionally. Like there's nothing.
It's kind of a you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if he says something, he's going to feel bad about it. And that's not going to give the other guy any peace. But if he keeps his mouth shut
then he's sending people off with no knowledge,
and
no way to
suffering
prepare.
by himself.
And there's a lot of struggle with him throughout this between the do I say something, do I not? Will they believe me? As it turns out, no, nobody will believe him because who the hell would? They assume what anybody is going to assume, which is, oh, well, you snapped. You need some time away from gunfire. Like you've had enough for a bit.
You've seen a lot. Go take a break.
And you know, between him trying to figure out if it's worth telling people, when he does tell people, nobody believes him. Although that is a surprisingly small part of the story. I expected that to be a little bigger, although
Well,
it's entirely possible that that's something that came up more frequently than I know in war. I don't know how that kind of trauma affects somebody. That might be something that wasn't that far out of the ordinary for somebody to come back from, the 30th or 40th run with the enemy, having survived, and suddenly they're not making a whole lot of sense when they talk. I don't know.
sure. And I wouldn't say that not that everybody, like on the whole, had trouble believing him.
No.
Captain
The
Riker did,
Yeah, Captain Riker
but
seemed to have some
he
faith in what he was
expressed it
saying.
in very subtle ways. Like
Right, he didn't just come out and say, "I believe you."
when his moment came, when Lieutenant Fitzgerald looked at his face and it lit up, and he's so overdramatic in every time this happens, which is actually one of my favorite things because I am a sucker for the overdramatic displays that are so prevalent in this era of film in general. I love it.
This man is an orchestral stab away from slamming the back of his hand into his own face and fainting onto a couch every time he sees somebody's face light up. It is
Disney princesses, my favorite thing.
it is hysterical, but not so much that it pulls you out of it. It can. It certainly can pull you out of the moment because he is, oh boy howdy, he's earning his money on this one.
But that is the thing that I love about it. It's great. Back to my point, though, is that when Captain Riker's moment came, they go through this dialogue. He brushes it off and says, "You're going to go out. You're going to do your thing." And so Lieutenant Fitzgerald leaves this conversation. And then the captain takes out the pictures from his wallet, removes his wedding ring, and leaves them on the table.
To make
make
the
the
implication
point.
being that he wants to make sure those come back if he doesn't.
Right.
Which is really the first time that we see anybody giving any credence to Fitzgerald's claims.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, just little things like that kind of peppered throughout.
Yeah. It's sorry, kind of backtracking to the mechanics of the episode. It's one of those so there's a lot of episodes where the lighting is flat.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like
Very one-dimensional.
yeah, it's very one-dimensional in a lot of them, and I don't know how much of that has to do with the technology that was available, the stages they were working on, or how much of that was we didn't know any better at the time. Obviously, I would say that lighting was probably still in its infancy, kind of as far as what we knew we could do with lighting.
Right. And what was practiced, really.
And yeah, what was practiced, what was expected. It was there's a lot of episodes where the lighting is just flat and it's not greatly utilized to evoke any emotion the way it is now. In that, a movie comes out now or a show comes out now, you would almost not using lighting to evoke like as its own character in the episode would almost be seen as bad direction.
Right.
Where that is just the norm in a lot of these episodes.
Because it's transitional in a lot of ways.
And this episode is no outlier to that. The lighting through the entire episode is like paper flat. The only real changes we get is when when Fitzgerald sees one of the platoon members who is going to die. We get the underlighting on that person's face, but to the point. And this is really my biggest beef with this episode, and it's a tiny thing, but towards the end there is an explosion that is obviously an explosion, and two of the platoon members that hear it suggest that maybe it was just thunder.
But it's clearly
And look to the sky.
Sun shining, blue skies.
Right.
It wasn't thunder, y'all.
Right, like if it was noon and the sun was beating down on them, I would not have been surprised by the lighting in this place.
And sure, like, to add further to that, there's no ambient noise prior to this explosion happening.
Well, there is one guy playing a harmonica one-handed, poorly pretending to play a harmonica.
But it stops at the point of the explosion. Like, there's no actual sound.
Well, there's very little ambient sound throughout the entire episode, but you're right. At that point, there is nothing else going on.
They chose to put this in a moment of dead silence.
There's
on the
nothing
set.
going on to distract from the fact that this is an explosion
And then the
200
response,
yards from everybody.
right? And then the response is, "Oh, but maybe it's thunder. It's thunder." I mean, I don't know much about tropical climate and tropical storms. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe there are thunderstorms in the middle of the fucking day. I don't know, but it certainly wasn't raining. And two of these men looked to the sky as though they were seeing the lightning in action.
Right.
While, I'm talking shit about it. That may have been an intentional choice. That may have been our
We're not going to think about the stuff
Right.
that we know.
right. That may very well have been a directorial choice by Mr. Bear, as a yes. Obviously, that was an explosion.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to think about the fact that it was an explosion.
Because we're still here and we have to keep moving.
That was probably just thunder. And if that's the case,
Well done.
yeah, dude, chef butthole kiss thing, whatever that fucking thing is, beautifully done. If in fact that was them trying to suggest that explosions are regularly mistaken for thunder in the middle of a sunny day, for shame. For shame.
I guess it's all a matter of opinion.
Do you have a favorite moment? Did we discuss your favorite moment? I know we discussed my favorite moment like 45 minutes ago.
I said this on the second walk through when Lieutenant Fitzgerald gets into the Jeep to go back to wherever they were sending him to in the end.
Sending him home
When he gets in the
because they
Jeep
thought he was insane.
and he sees the light on the driver's face and he's just like, well, maybe not. Like, we'll get you there in no time is I'm paraphrasing is what was said. Well, we'll see about that. I'm really glad that they didn't end the episode there.
See, and that's where we differ on that. Because I almost wish they had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To detract from the very awesome lightning moment. Thunder
Yes.
moment.
Yes, because we would have been spared the thunder moment.
But as
Although
far
I do understand why you say that, because it would have left. It wouldn't have actually answered any questions
no,
about.
it would have been heavy. Just a heavy place to leave it when you actually know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, this poor character has gone through this entire thing dealing with this thing. Nobody believes him. And now, because of the lighting, we know he's going to die. And the end. Finn, we're done. Like,
We know he's going to die, but we're not going to tell you whether or not he does.
right. It's just over. No, and I mean, I
Thanks for
appreciate
watching.
that in some instances, but not necessarily in this episode. So I'm glad that didn't happen. Favorite moment in particular? I don't necessarily have a favorite moment in this episode. There are many. 4 marbles is what I'm saying.
4 marbles. Jesus. No, 4 is fair. I'll give it 4 marbles. I think it has earned that. It has some weak points, for lack of a better term. But overall, it's a well-written episode. It's well acted, if a little overdramatic in some points, which is certainly better than being underdramatic where it needs to be.
I'm here for the overdrama.
And it tells a unique story about a man coming to terms with his own death. It's a very unique way to tell that story, or a story of that type. And unique stories are fucking hard to come by.
Right.
And I like unique stories. So I will happily give this 4 marbles. Sterling, save your money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely willing to watch this one again. It has not made my list of keep this out of my queue.
That's good. That's good. I agree. Yeah, it was well written overall. I mean, it's all good. So, yeah, thanks for listening. If you're still here and made it to the end of the episode, we will talk at you next week.
Next week, are we promising that?
I'm not promising anything. I'm just saying next week is our hope and goal.
So we're aiming for next week. We're gonna try to get this back on track.
Yeah.
If you want to, I'm a consummate professional. If you want to get a hold of us, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not checking 13 different platforms or keeping track of any of that. I don't have the time for it. But the Facebook is still active, and I will happily. We will happily get in touch with anybody if you want to get on the Facebook, leave a comment, ask a question, whatever the case may be. Tell us what you thought of the episode if you are so inclined. Feel free. That is Wander With Us. Like it's not hard to find. Look for the hummingbird.
Yep, we'll log in and check it out.
Yeah, so if you got something you want to get in contact with us, do it there. Like please don't bother with Twitter. I'm probably never going back on Twitter if I can help it. That place is a cesspool. Yeah. So if you want to get in contact with us, do it there at the Facebook. Oh my God, not that Facebook isn't a cesspool. They're all cesspools.
But the
For
Facebook
the
is
love
the
of
one
God.
we decided to stick with. So
That's the
it's
one that
there.
hasn't logged me out yet. So do that one. In the meantime, what's the next episode? You got that pulled up?
Well, I know it's episode 20 because this is 19.
Okay, I mean, you are... I want to talk shit, but you're further ahead than I am because I did not know this was episode 19.
Yeah. Episode 20.
Oh my God.
I have to look it up.
Are we only on 19?
Yeah. Yep.
God, it's like we're inefficient or take 2-year breaks or something.
All right. The next one is Elegy. And I'm really, really excited about this one.
Give me the overview. What'd you say?
3 astronauts touch down on an asteroid where they discover a world of people that appear to be frozen in time.
It's such a good episode.
I'm very excited.
There is so much to talk about on that episode.
Yeah. So catch us next week.
Catch us next week. We will be talking about Elegy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to be back. Thanks for being here with us. I reckon you can hear the dog snoring. She's excited too. I've been Connor.
Still about the name.
Still Wander With Us.
Thanks for listening.